Hey everyone, this is Cameron from Renegade Animation on renegadepopculture.com. If you like what we do, please give us a like, a follow, and a rating on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to us. We are everywhere. Make sure to share out our episodes, and if you can, consider supporting our Patreon. That way we can keep doing what we love, and that's talking about the world of animation and the current state of it all. It's fun. And now, on with the show.
Welcome to another episode of Renegade Animation on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me, as always, is the animation guru himself, Cameron.
Howdy, howdy.
And it's that time of the year again. We are doing our state of adult animation, which I almost want to include young adult animation because, as we've kind of noticed, at least over the past couple months, we're starting to see places like Adult Swim and Netflix trying to expand their demographic with some shows that we'll be talking about today. But on the whole, how are you feeling about 2024's animation? Because something I've noticed is we haven't really gotten that much new shows this year.
That's the thing. We are finally seeing the end of the big 2020 or 2018 to 2020 boom of animated films and shows getting greenlit through streaming services and just all around in general getting the okay and go to get made, only for them to now start to finally come out, get canceled after a week, or the rare few get to keep living for at least one more season. This year, I had to look through our episodes of what we were doing in 2024, and very few were of TV shows. It wasn't like 2020 or 2021 or 2022 or 2023 where we had enough adult animation to talk about or just animation in general to talk about to fit in like one or two TV shows and a movie for an episode. A lot of this year was based around movies and the occasional solo episode to talk about one show, like My Adventures with Superman and Delicious in Dungeon. We've had more anime episodes or anime focused episodes than actual US bound animation this year. And even then, that's not saying a whole lot because this is also a year where it just feels like not a whole lot came out, or it's because the industry was being kind of chaotic and unwell with leaving whole months open to no new animated movies on streaming or theatrical. And there wasn't a whole lot to talk about. We literally had to make an episode about Spy X Family because of the movie and to talk about the show. In terms of new adult animation or just new, like non returning shows, there weren't that many. It was probably the weakest year that we've had since we've been doing this podcast.
Yeah, which is honestly surprising. I think the year that we had the most was probably either 2021 or 2022, because I remember watching a lot more television in those 2 years.
And some of this is obviously the fault of the bigger studios right now, like Netflix and Warner Brothers Discovery, Disney's canning everything. They removed that Haley's On It show, which, man, that was a pretty decent show. I don't know why they had to eradicate that from the world. Or like Warner Brothers Discovery was canceling everything. Netflix was cutting contracts that they've made previously because we are now at a point in an industry where the people in charge want to make all the money in the world, but do not like spending anything. And if they do, it's mostly on the other companies that they're collaborating with to fork over the budget, like what we'll talk about with Arcane and such.
Hmm.
And yeah, I am struggling to find original shows that are in our range of interest because we're not going to talk about preschool shows.
No.
Like there was the Good Times reboot, which was frankly terrible and obnoxious. I didn't even make you sit through that one. I was offering to say like, hey, if you want to watch a few episodes of like the Good Times reboot or some of the few like Mulligan, like you can, but I'm not going to prioritize it. It took a hit this year. I was going to say it was a complete wash until these last few months of the year, which these companies, man, it's like even the ones that we're going to be talking about today were not safe from the higher ups being like, we got to cut 50 million from your budget so we can have more selling Sunset. Or whatever cheap reality slop is out there, or we have to invest on a safe bet because we have no creativity left and we are afraid to do something that may not make us money.
Sometimes it's tough being an animation fan because it feels like often chewing on table scraps compared to live action and other mediums, but at least the stuff that we're talking about today is stuff that I can genuinely recommend.
We've only seen the first two episodes as of recording this of the Creature Commandos TV series, which was always going to stay like as a TV series because it was based off of an IP. It's got James Gunn behind it. They hired James Gunn to pivot the entire DC universe after Zack Snyder and Dwayne Johnson wrecked it. Listen, I get it for the first two episode impressions. It's definitely more or less the same kind of stuff that Gunn has been working with for like the past decade or so with the Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy and such. Not a bad thing. It is retreading through familiar ground, but also, what were they going to do with Creature Commandos that wasn't going to come off like another ragtag team of misfits? Like the only thing that's different is this is more universal monster based. I mean, there are superhero stuff in it, but it's like you've shoved the Universal monster franchise IP into the DC universe.
You're not wrong. So, for those who don't know, Creature Commandos is one of the many DC Comics teams. They were introduced in Weird War Tales back in the 80s. It's a very interesting team. You got Frankenstein's monster, the Bride, G.I. Robot, Dr. Phosphorus, Nina Mazursky, and Rick Flag Sr.
And don't forget the pet mascot, like it was a Toei anime film from back then, Weasel.
Oh, yes, Weasel.
And yeah, and to be clear, this takes place in the same universe as James Gunn's Suicide Squad movie. So this is not Rick Flag Jr. This is Rick Flag Sr. Even though he's still very much fit and ripped and is now a silver fox played by Frank Grillo, who has a new werewolf action movie out this week. So give it a watch. It's quite absurd. Yes, a lot of these characters are not the most like well known. I would be shocked if I knew more than maybe one or two people who knew who GI Robot was. But it still has its own flair of what kind of ragtag team of misfits. So it's different from the more grindhousey superhero focus of Suicide Squad, where this one is more like there's action, comedy, slightly more supernatural and horror based elements to it.
Hmm.
Like, I think that's good enough until we get to the second episode where we focus on the background between the bride and Eric Frankenstein, or, Frankenstein's monster, who both are voiced by Indira Varma and David Harbour, where we learn about the whole, the typical I want a bride because I am a lonely, walking, talking, muscular zombie man. I need to have someone else to talk to that's not the doctor. Drama hits the fan, per se, and the bride and Eric Frankenstein have been on a century long, like Pepe Le Pew cartoon chase. So let's just say that.
That's actually a very accurate way to put it, but episode
I'm sorry, I
episode
didn't know how to exactly phrase it in a way where it's like he's constantly chasing her, and she's like, "Get the hell away from me, you psycho!"
episode
Sorry.
2 is, I think, easily my favorite episode so far, and it really does a good job. Both episodes do a great job of translating James Gunn's manic sensibilities. They translate so well into animation, both in the action sequences and the irreverent sense of humor. I love this one character, the guard of the princess, who
Oh yeah, Alexei, voiced by Julian Kostov.
his whole shtick is he's obsessed with outdated pop culture references from like the 2000s.
I really loved when they first meet him and Rick Flag Sr. does a bow. And then it's just like, nah, you're not supposed to do that bow. We're going to kill you all now. And then after just like almost like, well, that's the end of this show. Then it's like, nah, man, I'm just messing with you. And I think for me, yeah, the bride and I think Nina Mazursky are the most interesting characters. I really want to see more of Dr. Phosphorus, who's voiced by the great Alan Tudyk, and GI Robot, who's voiced by Sean Gunn, who also voices Weasel. Because I feel like GI Robot's going to be too, like, I know it's probably going to get better, and James Gunn is usually pretty good at taking care of one note characters or one note joke characters and make them more endearing, like what we have with Groot and King Shark. But it is just like GI Robot. We get it. You killed a bunch of Nazis. We're very happy for you, and we're glad to have you keep doing that. Pick up a second hobby. Have you thought about knitting? It's like the guy at the party who wants to talk about one thing and nobody else knows how to really interact in that regards. And Dr. Phosphorus, he reminds me, like, was this the character that Batman Beyond villain was based on?
I'm not sure. I mean, there's probably actually no, you're right. It's not quite the same character. He goes by the name Blight in Batman Beyond,
Yeah.
but visually they are very similar.
I wonder if they'll try to do a callback to the meme worthy line of it's like, who are you? You killed my father. Do you have any idea how little that narrows that down? But I like him being a little Dr. Phosphorus being a little sarcastic, and I like the bride being like, "Are you smiling right now?" And he's like, "Yeah," sarcastically. Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. So far, the characters are a little one note. Like I think Nina Mazursky being the passive female character. Like, okay, I want to see what else she can do. And like, the bride is the hard ass female character. It just so happens that so far the bride and Frankenstein's history is the most interesting part because Eric Frankenstein almost comes off like, one of those guys that you really want to avoid.
Yeah.
He's so pathetic and like gross in an entertaining way. And then of course Weasel is just Weasel. He's not all that interesting outside of just being like an animal character.
I will say this based on some critic friends of mine who have seen like the first 4 episodes. Weasel gets a spotlight episode in episode 4 that I'm honestly very fascinated to see.
I mean, like, I want to see more, like, and I'm excited to. And I like what I've seen so far. I do love the incel men that Cersei takes control of.
The Sons of Themyscira.
Yeah. And yeah, I just like the one going like, and now we have one major complaint. Why do they get better waterfalls? Guys deserve cool looking waterfalls too. It's like they still suck. That's the point. It's just making fun of how they will complain about everything.
Yep.
And I like the voice cast. It was interesting that they brought up, like, I think they brought back Viola Davis,
Yep.
like, as Amanda Waller. Interesting that they could get her back for this, but not the Suicide Squad Isekai. Though, assumedly, that's probably would have blown out the budget if they did that. So,
Probably. Something I
eh,
like about Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, she's become one of those actors that like has become like deeply associated with a character, kind of like J.K. Simmons is forever going to be J. Jonah Jameson, or Matt Ryan has reprised his role like many times as John Constantine.
or like Nathan Fillion as the first Green Lantern.
Oh,
Um,
Hal Jordan.
yeah, Hal Jordan, since he keeps coming back as him as well. But I mean, like, but again, there's a lot of good action. The comedy's not as abrasive as like the Suicide Squad and such. I think that works in its favor because sometimes, like, as much as I love Gunn's dialogue, sometimes the crass shock humor, when it's just so much of it, when everyone seems to have like that kind of way of talking, gets a little tiring. But I found the humor here to be very funny. And I'm very curious to see how Rick Flag Sr. gels with the rest of the crew. Like, I kind of forgot that Rick Flag had a father that still existed within the universe. And I want to see if any of that like internal drama and or trauma plays out
Oh, don't worry.
with.
That's actually a huge story arc for Rick Flag Sr. in Peacemaker season 2. You will see him actually confront like the death of his son.
That'll be interesting. I can't wait to see how that works.
And then of course, he's also going to show up in Superman for a cameo because it sounds like based on his appearance in like these three projects that Frank Grillo is kind of becoming like the Sam Jackson of the DCU, which is kind of fun.
So is he going to be like playing Rick Flag Sr. in the live action stuff, or
Yep, because that was the idea behind James Gunn's DC universe. Anyone who's playing a major character in animation will bounce back and forth between that and live action.
well, that'll be interesting to see because apparently Michael Rooker's going to show up at one point, and I'll be wondering if he's going to play his one character from the Suicide Squad movie or he's going to play someone new in this. I mean, granted, you can't really play the same character from the Suicide Squad movie because he's missing a head. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Unless Amanda Waller's is like, no, you know what? We got some supervillain rejuvenation nonsense with technology. We'll just bring him back. I'm liking this. It's not my favorite show of the year. I think the three that we're talking about have way more going for them, but we've also seen like the three shows that we're talking about more than this one. So we'll have to see if the first season makes the landing. But otherwise, yeah, I could see this being like a fun like action series to have if they can ever greenlight something past two seasons.
We'll have to wait and see.
Exactly. But now we're going to talk about Arcane Season 2, Tokyo Overdrive, and Jentry Chau versus the Underworld, which all happen to be Netflix. Which these three shows, like Arcane Season 2 notwithstanding, used to be like what Netflix was all about during the late 2010s to now, where they were saying, like, hey, make a show or we'll greenlight a show that nobody else wants for one reason or another. And it's also funny that all three of these shows have very similar thematic elements. We
Hmm.
didn't really choose that. We were just like, what are some young adults to adult animated shows that are coming out or that are out that we can talk about? With Tokyo Override, this one really snuck up on me because I did not hear about this show from any trailer. I'm sure there's like one trailer for this show, but Netflix has stopped doing those like what's coming to Netflix trailers. So I had to find out about this one through their what's coming out soon section of the streaming app, which, that A plus Netflix marketing. Like, did you ever hear about this show before I told you about it?
Nope. I mean, I may have heard about it in passing, but I'll be completely honest, if we didn't have this platform, I would have never discovered the show.
Like, this is a 6 episode CGI animated series from Japan that has both Yamaha and Honda in its collaboration, along with world designer Laura Shichanovitz and Joshua Dawson, in this cyberpunk world where everyone is on a predetermined path. They don't take, nobody walks here. We're going into the Wally territory where everyone stands on these little Roomba things to get around town, which is both very funny, sad, and it's like meant to be sad. But I also kind of want one of those just
It would
for
be
the
so
curiosity of it
convenient.
all. All the cars that aren't like gas guzzling retro cars are like these big blocky cubes that carry no humans, but just all the deliveries and boxes full of stuff that you could want. And it's all about a group of bikers who take in this young hacker, and they get all these dirty jobs done, like, and try to avoid the overarching government and mega corporations from controlling everything. And it's so funny how this show, with its commentary about how humans deserve to have a future that is not guided to them by mega corporations, matches up very well with Gentry Chau versus the Underworld story, which this show is a 13 episode action supernatural series by Echo Wu with executive producer Ali Wong, about a girl from South Korea who comes back to, of all states, Texas, and ends up getting wrapped up in her family's history and Chinese mythology, where a lot of this 13 episode series story is all about Gentry Chau pushing back against the predetermined destiny that her parents and her grandmother put her on.
And
So
speaking of predetermined destiny, that also kind of plays a role in at least the last act of Arcane season 2.
it's wild how these all line up. It's really funny. And Tokyo Overdrive, which looks like a lot of other futuristic cyberpunk series, does have its own like look and distinction amongst, it's not Blade Runner. None of this is like cribbing from Ghost in the Shell or, like I said, Blade Runner. Runner was like the most popular sci-fi series, like movie, for the longest time in Japan. Like, name the number of anime that you could watch in the 80s that were inspired by Blade Runner, you'd have a lot of them.
Yeah,
Well, I
this
mean,
this
hell,
one
Ghost in the Shell came from Blade Runner, so
that makes sense. It's a lot brighter as far as like the aesthetic. Most of what we see, there's still some scenes that take place at night, but most of it you see during the daytime. And
it's a very clean cyberpunk city.
yeah,
It's not as grisly and grimy as like the original Blade Runner and such. It's slick. It's like that way too polished artificial look that corporations want to go with their technology and such. And that makes sense because, again, this show, Gentry Chau, and the second half of Arcane season 2 are all about how overarching entities like mega corporations or demons like have taken over the role of like, you do not need to worry about your future. We have that on lockdown. You're going to do this and that's final. Which is really cool because right now it can feel very dystopian with what's going on in the world right now. And what we need to do is fight back and take back our destinies, take back our paths, our lives, and such, and not to be pinned down or labeled in one way with how people or corporations have labeled you and such. And then with Tokyo Overdrive, that's figurative and literal because you're called a tagless if you do not have something, well, tagged on you or in you to for like the government to keep track of you.
It's a very scary thought to be like to have your life that micromanaged by forces out of your control.
And that's the scary thing with Gentry Chau. Like she got all these great powers, and yet it was not of her doing. It was because of her parents and her grandmother and their actions from the past. That's messed up. You have your whole future and childhood taken away from you because of the actions of the previous generation and the generation before them, which is like all about Gentry Chau, voiced by Ali Wong in this series, getting discriminated against, hated on for her powers, and for an incident that she accidentally caused way back when she was younger. And she's having to deal with how people look at her and what she is having to do to push back against incidences and events that were not of her doing. She had nothing to do with them. What's so good about these three shows, I know we're not talking too much about Arcane, but we're going to get to there, is how, despite a lot of stuff is going on with these shows, there's always a focus on character, which
Yep.
is something that a lot of big live action dramas seem to forget. And it's not just Game of Thrones forgot about this, where it basically put its twists and turns ahead of the character drama. It was more invested with, oh, what's the next big plot point? Instead of like, what's happening with these characters? Because sometimes, they just get left in the dust and are like, oh, we have this person to use in the story, don't we?
One thing that Gentry Chau has in common with a lot of like the CW shows, those as convoluted as they can get, the further into those runs as they can get, they still remember to keep things character focused. And I've gotten a lot of like Buffy the Vampire Slayer vibes with Gentry Chau and a little bit of Sabrina the Teenage Witch. That combined with a lot of the action cartoons that we grew up with, and of course, lots of Magical Girl anime. All of those influences have helped to shape Gentry Chau into what it is.
And it's a lot of fun to watch Gentry Chau. A lot of that is because I haven't seen a show this based in Texas since King of the Hill. Because unless you live here in Texas, you're not going to get any of these references. I mean, you'll get the base surface level of it all, but one of the main characters of the show, Michael Ole, voiced by AJ Beckles, is going to apparently go play football at UT. It's like, yo, he's going to Austin. He's going to my hometown. Or the fact that they go to the Texas State Fair, which, yeah, everyone knows about it, but are you going to be there? Like, have you ever gone there and then encountered Big Tex himself? Gentry Chau does such a good job at showing the diversity here in Texas, more so than a lot of shows in general do that show off Texas. And I feel very proud of that. Like, it's like, hey, cool. Texas isn't just cowboys and 10-gallon hats or whatever. Across all these three shows, character is the driving force. It's not, you never feel like the characters are taken out of their role and just moved along because the story said so. Their agency is there. Like a lot goes on in Arcane season 2, like maybe a little too much at 9 episodes, but there is always a focus on either the sibling dynamics between V and Jinx or what is driving everyone else. It's not because of a MacGuffin or some outside force. everything happened because the characters had their own agency, which you don't realize how much a show can suck when our character cannot do anything outside of what the story demands until you actually watch it.
Yep.
Like, it sucks to be like, well, I don't have to worry about this character because the story's going to resolve it anyway. So, whatever.
At no point did I ever feel that watching Arcane. Even the stuff with Jace and all of the cosmic craziness that he and Victor are involved with, I was still genuinely worried for him and his survival.
All three of these shows have really good writing. And while maybe Tokyo Override has the most straightforward writing, like out of these three shows, it's still like a lot of these characters are lovable, especially Hugo, who's voiced by which son of Patrick Warburton?
Talon Warburton.
Yeah, which for some reason the Wikipedia for this show has Patrick Warburton under there, which no, it's Talon. And it was so weird to watch Tokyo Override and to hear it's like, wait, is that Joe Swanson from Family Guy or Brock from the Venture Brothers? No, it's the son of the guy who voices those two characters. He stands out among the other like actors on the show, like KG Tang, Shelby Young, and some of the other characters in the show. It's fascinating how the voice cast is handled in that show. Like, all three of these shows have really good voice casts. I think my favorite of the bunch, like of the ensemble, is probably Gentry Chau versus the Underworld, because you have Ed, this little vampire voiced by Bowen Yang, who, like, man, give Bowen Yang all the lead roles, man. He is so funny, and he brings a lot of that charm that he does with his SNL appearances and in his other voice role performances. He brings it all. Let's just say that.
I'm
His
learning
stuff.
this year that I really like Bowen Yang as not just like a voice actor, but an actor in general.
And also a really killer few months for Lori Tan Chin, who plays Gugu, who most live action people would know from Orange is the New Black, but she's also in the new Ted Danson series, The Man on the Inside.
Oh,
Or
nice.
she's been around like forever, and she's popped up like all over the place. And she is great. Like, she was in Kung Fu Panda 4 this year. She was the granny boar from like the diner restaurant sequence from that movie. And she was also in Turning Red as a
Yep.
voice actor. And then, like, we also have, like I said earlier, we have AJ Beckles, we have Christina Milizia as Stella, Kit, who's voiced by Woo Sung Kim, who, like, I thought he brought a very layered performance to a character who is like, oh, the pretty boy archetype, until you find out he's a skin demon. Oh, that was a creepy, creepy reveal of, oh, he's a demon that wears human skin. Ugh.
I had a very roller coaster emotion like throughout his entire arc.
And no, it was just also kind of cute where they made those like things for people that want to go to the prom, like the prom offer things. And she's like, Gentry's like, oh, it's made of skin. That's nice. And Greg Choon, who plays Mr. Chang, is also really cool. A very interesting, tragic villain character who is both like really imposing and dangerous, but also a victim of circumstance and actions from other characters. Because, like, he plays his dad who wanted to bring his daughter back to life, and then it's like, oh, look, I'm a questionably creepy little demon. Why don't you make a deal with me? Because, those go well, you know.
Never trust a Mogwai.
Yeah, no, just don't trust demons, y'all. But we also have Lucy Liu as Mooney Chow, uh, Gentry's mom, Jimmy Yang, Peng Chow, even though he doesn't appear a lot, and that's a shame because I also like Jimmy Yang. And I've watched
Same.
this new Hulu series, which is great. Got Michaela Dietz as Toki, one of Gentry's friends. Keiji Tang is back as Oxface, one of the two guardians, like him and Horseface, voiced by Stephen Fu. And probably one of the more entertaining side characters is Vice Principal Wheeler, who's voiced by Sean Allen Krill, who is hyperly obsessed with the whole incident that Gentry accidentally caused in the past. It's like he bounces between being really pathetic to rage inducing with how terrible of a human being he is.
He's kind of the Denzel Crocker of the show.
There's also a bunch of other like ghosts that Gugu interacts with. Like there's Maz, voiced by Sungwon Cho, voiced by Jonathan Mello. There's Solar Tang, who's voiced by Susie Young, who is this bounty hunter character from like the previous history of Gentry's family's past. There's Zong Kui, who's voiced by Shen Wong, who like is his he's like a warden. He keeps all of the spirits in the afterlife in jail. Let's just say that.
Basically, yeah.
I love the worlds of Tokyo Override and Jentry Chau. That this is the problem with the streaming bubble and what that has done with TV shows. We are no longer able to just let shows breathe. Like at first I was kind of against the whole thing of like bring back 22 episodes seasons because I'm like, we don't need to go back to that because I'd rather have more focused episodes than like, oh, you can tell which shows from that 22 episode lineup got the more focus than the ones that didn't. You know, it's like an A episode and our B episode. You know what I mean? But on the other hand, the problem with Tokyo Override, Jentry Chau, and Arcane is there's no time to just be in the world. Like you think they're going to have like a few episodes where they ride across Tokyo and do a bunch of different jobs in Tokyo Override, but it's really the first job, the heart delivery, and then the last three episodes are all one plot. And with Jentry Chau, it's all about Gentry finding out all of the horrible things about her history and what has gone on in like why does she have these powers, why is she being told that she's the chosen one. And it's just like this would have been like back in the day like what was that Cartoon Network show, Juniper Lee, do you remember that one?
Vaguely.
It's like that or American Dragon Jake Long, where they would have multiple encounters, like one-off encounters with demons or spirits or whatever. But there's no time for that anymore. It's like you can have a filler episode here and there, but there's no time to just have more of that. And that's a shame because I really like the worlds that they crafted, and it's a shame how Jentry Chau was going to have 20 episodes, but then of course Netflix being Netflix with what they're doing now, they cut the episode count down to 13, which it explains why the last third of the 13 episodes feels very
Rushed.
yeah. It's like you can tell after they defeat Mr. Chang and the demon's like, wait, I know where your mother is, Gentry, and then vanishes. And it's like, well, now we got to go to the underworld. And it feels like there would have been more time to be in there, to hustle around there. But instead, no, it's just really find a mom, make a bad deal with the demon that screwed over Mr. Chang, and then watch as that demon screws over Gentry and then Gentry's mom.
I still enjoyed those last three episodes, but you kind of can't help but think about opportunities missed by cutting the episode count.
And like there's some really good stuff. Like in Jentry Chau, there's a whole episode where they go to the Alamo and talk about the problematic history of the Alamo. And the whole villain who it gets to be in charge of like basically Civil War ghosts and like ghosts from that time period is fueled by ignorance in like racist propaganda. Man, it's like this and Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur were really good at introducing villains who were very much fueled by racism and hate.
Oh
Like
yeah.
like they weren't like, oh, I'm a super strong magic user or anything. Like, no, this guy's just a bigot. Or in Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur's case, like their whole thing was just gentrification. Like push out all the people who can't live here so all the white people can move in. Man, I'm so sorry for Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur getting screwed over like that keeps happening.
This is why
With
we can't have nice things.
yeah. And like yeah, I wanted a few more episodes to be in Tokyo Override, but I understand to a degree that hey, doing all this stuff and hiring very specific people and doing a collaboration with companies like Yamaha and Honda on top of the amazing visual look of Tokyo Override with its like painted CGI look, it's going to cost a pretty penny, but still, I want to see more of these things. I want to feel more in these worlds, so or have more time for these characters to be fleshed out. Because you kind of could tell that there was supposed to be more going on with Michael Ole's and Stella's character with Jentry Chau, but they never quite get to that point. Though Stella does have a great moment where she uses a talisman and instead of like because she thought she was going to freeze someone, it causes the demon to explode. And then she was just like, "Hey Ed, can you read this for me?" And Ed's like, "No, just get that away from me."
I love
Like,
that.
like Ed and Kit get to have more of a development arc than Michael Ole and Stella because Michael's whole thing is he has also been predetermined to essentially be a football player because his parents said so, even though he has visions and his parents supposedly know about the visions, but then we don't get any time to really dive into that complicated family history at all.
Yeah, that I'm not gonna lie, that did kind of bother me to like not get more of like what's going on with Michael's powers because his visions, A, were really well animated. Like I really like the look of his foresight or whatever his powers were, but we don't really get to know his history the same way we know Gentry's.
And it's a shame because like there was a good amount of drama between this square between Gentry, Michael, Stella, and Kit. And Kit kind of gets a redemption arc for lying to Gentry, but again, because of the episodes getting cut, there's not a whole lot of time to do that. And let's get into Arcane season 2 for a little bit. As much as I love the drama and the drive of like what is going on in the world of Arcane, the corruption of power, systemic oppression, and the worry and flaws of new technology, or, you know, in this show's case, hex tech, the consequences of unregulated ambition is. And yet, then at like the very end, they start introducing alternate dimensions and the drama between V and Jinx and their new spoiler alert resurrected werewolf dad. And on top of all that, and then the Black Rose stuff that's going on with Madara's character, it's really too much to shove into 9 episodes if you are not going to pace it out in that way.
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree.
Like, I don't hate Arcane season 2. I love it. I think it ends really well. And the things that happen should have happened and were going to happen. Like, spoiler alert, Jinx was never going to make it.
No, of course not.
It's tragic, and but that's just what happens. And yet I feel like just it doesn't quite gel with all that gets introduced in the later half because then like who else gets sent to another dimension or time period? Jace Talus gets sent into a future where Hextech ruins everything. Echo ends up in a history where Jinx survives, but V dies. And then, like, Heimerdinger, yeah. Like, he gets left behind in that alternative, like, dimension. And there's also, like, the dynamics between Sevica and Jinx or Caitlyn and V, where at first V starts to join Caitlyn's side. But then it's like, wait a minute, I don't want to be part of this systemic oppression. And as Jinx becomes this rebel icon or like avatar for rebellion against the oppression of the hierarchy. And as much as it still focuses on the drama and connections between the characters, too much happens. And even though they said, oh, this was always going to be the case, they were always going to be 2 seasons.
I have my suspicions that that's fully accurate.
And that's a shame because a lot of the writing is so good in this show. I love the sequence between, I think it was, yeah, Singed and Ambessa Madara Darda, where she's like, from my experience, the guilty party like stays silent. And then he says, in my experience, the ones in power are not innocent. And it's like, oh, that's a good line. I love that. But man, I wanted there to be just more from each of these shows. Like Jentry Chau could have been like a good 5 season show, but we are no longer in that time period where shows like Arcane and Jentry Chau cannot afford or is able to have more than 1 or 2 seasons. At the very least, I can kind of understand Arcane because of just how much money went into this 2 season series.
Riot and Fortiche, they spent like an arm and a leg on each season, and you can definitely tell with the animation, the soundtrack. They got a lot of big artists involved.
And a lot of big voice actors like Haley Steinfeld, Ella Purnell, just like really good people to be in this like overall show. And like, man, you could see the money put into this show. Like, it looks wonderful. It has amazing action, and the movements are like theatrical quality animation level. It's basically like Maya in the 3, where all of the details and love and attention that goes into theatrical animation was put into a TV show.
Oh yeah.
And yet, I still feel like they were forced to rush to the end with all of these. Like Gentry Chow, they had no other choice. They had to fit a 2 season story into 13 episodes. They weren't going to get like, oh, hey, everything looks amazing. This will be a huge hit. Which so far it seems like it's a very popular show as of right now. But it's like they weren't going to get those 7 episodes back. And who knows if we're going to get a second season because, well, Arcane is over. Tokyo Override was probably just this 1 season, and Gentry Chow is probably not going to get another season. Which, Mike, let's talk about something that you have wanted to mention about this, because with Netflix canceling everything left and right without ever giving anything a chance, along with other services or channels, what has happened with the viewer base or like the audience going?
I brought this up on social media a while ago that like I keep seeing this like the sentiment of audiences being like, I don't want to get invested in this show because they're just gonna cancel it after 1 season. And then what happens? A show gets canceled after 1 season because people aren't watching.
Like, a lot of that is on Netflix and other companies just chilling the hell out. I'm sorry, not everything can be a giant SpongeBob hit right at the beginning. I'm sorry, but that's not scientifically possible unless you give shows a chance to grow. Like,
Yeah.
with how stupid these companies are, they might as well just be saying like, "Hey, we're not going to make TV shows anymore. We're just going to make a bunch of limited series because we are so allergic to having to spend money.
It's frustrating because on both ends, like, yeah, studios are becoming increasingly like allergic to spending like a penny more than they absolutely need to. It can be a little bit frustrating as an audience member to be like, I want to be invested, but I also don't want the show to be canceled. And then we just kind of keep going in this loop of studios being allergic to spend money and also just,
They don't give them a chance.
yeah.
It's maddening because, yes, I think Tokyo Override has one of those endings where it's like overall it's a good thing that has happened. Like they saved a day and they made it better, but the bad guy does get away again because, the villain of the series got, one of those golden parachutes where like they didn't have to worry. It's like, well, I'm moving away from Japan. I get to keep all the money in the world and not suffer any of the consequences, which is always frustrating because that happens a lot in real life. It's like how dystopian movies and shows are never made to comment on the future. They're always commenting on the present.
Hmm.
And it's like, okay, fine. Tokyo Override, 6 episodes, fine. If that's really all that they wanted to do, then so be it. Jentry Chau could have had way more time to do a lot because I love the character dynamics with everyone. I love Gentry and Ed's sister brother dynamic. But the problem there is that it focuses so much on the drama because there's no time to let anything breathe. Not that it's like as bad as some shows like the Shaman King reboot or the remake, but you could just tell that it's a rich world that they've crafted. And it would be a shame for this to be stuck as a 13 episode series. It's the same with like My Dad the Bounty Hunter. That got canceled after 2 seasons, and yet you could tell there was so much more they could do. Really, that's the problem with the current state of animation. On top of studios not wanting to greenlight things or are simply greenlighting things that were from the previous leader in charge of every company, there's just nothing is able to find an audience anymore.
People are just too impatient, like, especially studios who, as we've expressed earlier, they want, whether it's Netflix who expects like Stranger Things every single time, or other studios want their SpongeBob, something that's like an instant success. But the problem is shows like SpongeBob grew their popularity over time, but a lot of the newer people in charge, they don't want to wait to grow their audience. They want the audience like now.
And that's a problem when stuff like Very Odd Parents, which I've seen the new iteration of the show, and it's wonderful, delightful, and charming, just like the original show before Butch Hartman ruined it or ran it into the ground. But the advantage that SpongeBob and other franchises have is that they were able to build in an audience of decades of fans and viewers, just like how Disney's able to do that for a lot of their stuff. But newer shows are new. They don't have the built-in audience that like these executives think they do. But it's just man, it's just like, and these shows look so good. Like Titmouse did a great job with Gentry Chau in its action. It really just looks wonderful. Like I love the comic book look of Gentry Chau and the vibrant color palette.
And how about that
Arcane,
opening sequence too?
oh god, Gentry Chau has one of the few opening sequences where there's actual lyrics and it's not just like 10 seconds and then the title comes up. It's like a full 30 seconds. It's got a killer opening. The visuals are wonderful. It's like the DuckTales reboot
It is.
in terms of that. And it gives you everything that you want in the show. Like even Tokyo Override was not able to have a opening or anything like that. It was just Tokyo Override. Okay, back to the plot. And Arcane has the returning Imagine Dragons theme song, but that was going to be a given. It just changed the opening to now reflect the current plot or story of the second season. And it's funny because Tokyo Override is almost on the same level of Arcane, but I mean, it doesn't have the same hyper polish or like just subtle details of Arcane, but it looks really good.
Yeah.
It's just frustrating. Again, just like we can't get shows that aren't able to tell a full story or a complete story. We have these amazing visuals that are going to cost money, but people who are in charge who are so afraid to spend money on everything. And then Arcane got lucky because we already know that the studio that made Arcane and Riot are going to make other shows based on the League of Legends universe.
Oh, of course, because League of Legends has like thousands of different characters and so many different worlds that they can make spin-offs for like decades and never run out of material.
Exactly. Like it's really going to be, is Riot, the animation studio that made this show, and Netflix willing to throw down that money every single time? Because that's like what, $250 million a season? Like that's way more than most shows and movies are ever going to get. And even though it's good, what happens when all that money doesn't pay off in good writing and the animation falters because the industry doesn't treat its animators well?
That's something that needs to be taken care of first. Studios have to take care of their animators, and I don't know if everyone in our audience has read the tentative deal that the AMPTP came up
But
with,
yeah,
but
they're currently looking over it and voting on it. And while there is no talk of a strike, due to the fact that the Animation Guild was not able to fight further or get more protection from generative AI and limited crew numbers, the AMPTP are still trying to weasel out of spending money. They're still trying to pull the same stunts that the actors and writer strike fumbled with last year. And they're thinking they can get away with it, but animation people are like, no, we're going to stand our ground, man. But it also just means that like the people in charge of the guild and unions need to really actually fight for your people, not just for the 1%. Because yeah, Arcane was able to survive and will survive because it has a huge amount of money and a safety net. But the studios are going to kind of think like they're Victor. They're like, we're doing the right thing by not letting y'all get away with not using generative AI and whatever. When it's like they're going to miss the entire point of Victor's rise to villainy, where he thinks I can do everything and my actions don't have consequences, despite the fact a lot of people are going to die.
mhm.
It's like I love all three of these shows. I highly recommend watching them. A lot of people obviously have watched Arcane and Gentry Chau, but still, it's like just because like okay, I watched it. It's like okay, well, keep watching it and keep supporting it, keep sharing it out, tell more people about these shows. We need to get back into the rhythm of if a new show is coming out, you support it.
Tell everyone about the shows that you love and keep that going because that's how these shows survive. That's how studios say, "Hey, people like this. We should make more."
We need to find a way to expel the people in charge of these studios to get people who understand that making art is a risk, that they need new ideas, they need new creativity. Everyone who has made critical darlings of the past are saying right now, y'all need to start investing in new ideas because playing it safe is not going to work out in the long run. But of course, that's not what the studios are thinking about. They're thinking about the short term gain and profits because they're not worrying until it's right up to their doorstep and things come crashing down and people start looking for, targets to blame and such. So it's a lot right now. So the current state is in a weird growing stagnation. It's both growing and stagnated because there are some shows getting greenlit, but a lot of it's still not new ideas or are ideas based on pre-existing properties. Like, listen, I love Owen Dennis, and I'm so curious to check out that Among Us show that he's working on. But man, it would have been cool to see a new idea from him, or at least more seasons of Infinity Train.
Same.
That's just the problem. A lot of creatives are like, they're not taking new ideas right now. That's going to dry up. Like, there's no. It's just funny how, while getting screwed over in its own way, live action does not get the same scrutiny as animation does because it's just how people disrespect animation and what have you. So I'm just exhausted.
That is the energy that has kind of permeated throughout 2024. Just being exhausted by all of this.
Like, I want there to be a thriving animation industry, both studio line and indie, but everything is like not in a place where that's possible. And I wish that wasn't the case. I wish I could say we're in a good spot. We are not. And it needs to change. And that means either kicking out the people in charge because they're just not doing anything, or whatever comes out, we need to just hit it hard, hit the ground running, and support it. Even if, I mean, yeah, some things will suck, but that's a given. But still, like, the good stuff, really make sure the good stuff makes it through. Which I know that's impossible because taste is subjective, yada, yada, yada. But I think it's pretty obvious when we know when a show is going to be like, oh, this is a banger and such. Like, I want the animation industry to have the blind excitement and determination that the anime industry has, pumping out like 50 or 60 shows every 3 months. That blind determination of like, we are going to make 60 different hit shows and it doesn't work. But you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I get what you're saying. As much as we may complain about how many anime we have to cover for like our seasonal recaps, at least like that volume of like new shows means there's just as great a chance of getting like a bunch of great new shows as there are, bad ones. But the point is they're trying and they're throwing so much at the wall to see what sticks.
yes, it is backfiring because they're burning out their animators, but they're not like canceling anything mid-season or anything. They're like, we're going to make 13 episodes of this and it's going to suck and it's going to get worse as each episode goes on, like Jibby, but by God, we're going to make sure those 13 episodes are made and that they exist. They're not removing anime off of Crunchyroll or off the internet like for good. They're just like, yeah, we made it. Sorry that it sucked, but what could we have done? Even though I'm always going to fight for less anime, just, better quality control. But I want the industry in the US to be like, to have that energy. Don't try to shove 30 to 60 new shows at us every 3 months, but go in there with that creativity and be like, I want to see new ideas.
Because remember this, we can't have sequels, reboots, remakes without the original to base it off of.
Exactly. So, with that, I think that'll be it for this episode. And next time, we're going to have an early Christmas episode where we're going to talk about, obviously, the new Christmas animated film that came out on Netflix that Christmas. We're going to talk about the 45-minute special that Disney Plus put out. And unless Flow makes it to Mike's theaters, which I hope it does, we're going
Same.
to talk about Lord of the Rings, the War of Rohirrim. That's it for this one.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that Lord of the Rings movie, which apparently isn't being marketed enough, but that's a topic for another day.
Well, next episode.
Until next time, Cameron, where can everyone find you online?
You can find me on Blue Sky, sometimes on Twitter at Cam's Eye View. I am a contributor to Media Magpies. You can read my first editorial out right now, where I talk about the actual Oscar chances for both Inside Out 2 and The Wild Robot and what may hold them back. And I have my own website called camsiview.biz where I review animated films and shows from around the world called The Other Side of Animation. I also have a Patreon at patreon.com/camsiview. That's where you can find me.
And you guys can find me on various social media sites at Captain K42. You can check out my quick thoughts on letterboxd.com/Coach K42. And you can follow Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Blue Sky at Ren Pop Culture. You can also find us on YouTube, on Podchaser. Consider supporting our Patreon at patreon.com/Renegade Pop Culture. Listen to all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And last but not least, everything can be found at renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Animation. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.